You know, when we think about places that are torn apart by conflict, our minds usually go straight to the violence. But what about the peace? And I'm not talking about the kind signed by diplomats in fancy rooms. I'm talking about the small, almost invisible things people do just to get through the day. Turns out there's this hidden rule book that people follow to survive and coexist, right in the middle of all the chaos. And today, we're going to open it.
So, get this. Picture a swimming pool in the 1970s. A 6-year-old boy makes a new friend, and that friend asks him a pretty simple question. Are you a Catholic or a Protestant? The boy answers honestly, and later that day, his mom and his older sister are absolutely furious with him. Not about the question, but about the fact that he answered it. A totally innocent chat suddenly becomes a huge family crisis. Why on earth would that happen?
That little story from the swimming pool, it perfectly sets up the puzzle we're going to unpack. What was the rule that the little boy broke? And where in the world did a rule like that even come from? See, these aren't laws written down in any book, but believe me, they can be just as powerful, shaping every single day of your life when you live in a deeply divided place. Okay, so to really understand this hidden rulebook, we have to look way beyond the official peace processes. Forget the treaties and the handshakes that we see on the news for a second. We need to zoom in and look at what's actually happening on the ground, in the streets, in the shops, at the park. And here's the big idea we need: everyday peace. Now, this isn't about grand gestures or big moments of reconciliation. Nope. It's all about the small, repeated habits, the coping skills that ordinary people figure out just to avoid trouble, to lower the risks, and to simply get by. In a way, it's the subtle social genius of survival. And this is where we see a really important split. On one hand, you've got the peace we usually hear about, the top-down kind. That's made by elites and diplomats, signing treaties in formal settings. But everyday peace is the total opposite. It's bottom-up. It's practiced by regular people in regular places where life actually happens. One is all standardized and technical. The other is personal. It's intuitive, and it's constantly changing. All right, so if everyday peace is a set of skills, what are we actually talking about here? How do people do it? Well, researchers have pinpointed 5 key tactics that people use all the time, a lot of the time without even realizing it. Okay, let's break these down. First up, you've got avoidance. Super common. It's just not talking about politics or religion with certain people. Then there's ambiguity, where you might kind of hide what group you belong to, or you just pretend not to notice someone else's identity markers. Ritualized politeness is when your interactions become kind of, scripted and reserved, just to make sure no one gets offended. On the flip side, you have telling. This is a finely tuned skill of picking up on tiny clues, a name, an accent, the way someone dresses, to figure out who you're dealing with. And finally, blame deferring. This is where people agree to blame outsiders or troublemakers for any problems, just so they can keep getting along with their neighbors. And think about that first one, avoidance. The amazing Irish poet Seamus Heaney just nailed its essence perfectly with this line. It's the art of talking about absolutely anything, the weather, sports, you name it, except for the one big thing that's tearing everyone apart. It's a survival skill that becomes a way of life. Now, this whole intricate system, all of these tactics, they really depend on 3 big ideas. First, the belief that the social world isn't set in stone, it can change. Second, that these groups aren't just solid blocks of people who all think the same. There's tons of variety inside them. And third, that other things, like your class, your gender, where you live, all play a huge role. And you don't exactly get a manual for this stuff. It's not something you learn in a classroom. It's an expertise that's passed down from your parents, learned by watching other people, and yeah, often through the really painful process of trial and error, just like that little boy at the swimming pool found out. It's a kind of lived, intuitive intelligence. But, and this is a really big but, as important as this is, we have to be critical. All these tactics, avoiding topics, ignoring differences, being super polite, doesn't that sound less like real peace and more like just managing a conflict? I mean, does this actually solve anything, or is it just keeping a fragile lid on a pot that's about to boil over?
And here's the core criticism, put really bluntly. Maybe everyday peace isn't about building respect at all. Maybe it's just about tolerating prejudice so that you can get on with your life. You're not challenging the bigotry, you're just agreeing not to talk about it so you can both buy your groceries without a fight.
And the problems don't stop there. For one, by just accepting the divisions, everyday peace might actually make them stronger in the long run. It does absolutely nothing to fix bigger structural problems like discrimination in jobs or housing.
It can also feel really insincere, like a form of socially sanctioned lying. And, well, obviously, none of this can work if people are literally separated by walls and barriers.
But hold on, because that is not where this story ends. What starts out as just a simple way to cope, to survive, well, it can actually grow into something much, much more powerful. It can plant the seeds for real transformative change.
You can almost think of it as a journey, an evolution. You start with everyday peace, those basic survival tactics. But that can grow into everyday diplomacy. These are more active, more conscious things people do to connect with each other, to push back against the status quo. And when enough of those small acts start happening, they can pool together into what's called peace formation, building a real, sustainable, bottom-up peace that has genuine strength.
And this is why this matters so much. These little shifts on the ground send a massive signal upwards. When people from different sides start, say, working together on a project or joining the same parents group, it tells political leaders that the old stories of division are getting weaker. It tells them their people might just be ready for real change. So what this all does is completely flip our idea of what peace even is. It's not just some end goal, right? Not just a treaty that gets signed when a war is over. It's a continuous process. It's a practice, a choice that's made up of thousands of tiny, brave, and creative decisions that people make every single day. The news cycle always shows us the bombs and the hatred, but this idea gives us a whole new way to look at things. So the next time you see a divided society on your screen, I want you to try and look for the gaps. Ask yourself, what are the unwritten rules, the hidden handshakes? What are the everyday acts of peace that are there holding things together just out of sight?